Welcome to Beyond the Trade. I'm your host, Angel Thomas, and today we have Dr. Adele Harrypersad, an instructor at our Julian Academy in St. Madeleine. So, Dr. Harrypersad, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell me, how did you end up in this trade?
So, I would say I won't call it a trade because drilling is so complex. It's not actually a trade because we offer it at a diploma level. So, it's not actually like a trade because it's a really complex field. But me personally, how I ended up in it is that as a child, I really was fascinated with how we actually got hydrocarbons out of the subsurface.
Okay.
As a child, I can conceptualize how are we actually drilling through water and then going into the ground and getting something out of it.
Yeah.
So as I got older, because it piqued my interest, I just continued doing some research into the field, and that projected my career into petroleum geoscience. And from petroleum geoscience, I did that for my undergrad. I went into my MPhil to PhD in petroleum engineering, and that's how I'm here today.
Why I smile so much? Because you mentioned hydrocarbon, and I'm in the trade or the profession of air conditioning refrigeration. Yeah. Hydrocarbon, well, for us, a gas well or refrigerant, I will call it R410.
Yeah.
So that's actually a hydrocarbon as well. So that's why I smile when you mention hydrocarbon. So tell me something. Mm-hmm. Why should one be or certified or come to NESC to do the drilling diploma?
So NESC is a very special institution in that it's the only institution in Trinidad that actually has a rig on our compound, whereby we can actually offer hands-on and practical experience and exposure. So basically what you're going to be learning in theory, in classroom, you're going to now be exposed to it in real life. So all this, when you log it in your book, you become more marketable when you go out in the industry. That, you can show them, I know how to operate the hoisting system. I know how to operate the circulator system.
Coming straight out of a school after graduating.
So, and that's something, that's very unique to NESC, and that's why I would always encourage people to come to NESC. And also not only because of our the live operations that we offer, but also because our staff at the moment is fully competent. Each one of us, and it wasn't that saying that the staff 4 wasn't fully competent, but now our staff, our 4 lecturers, we all bring something new and original to the table.
Yeah.
So with all our knowledge melting together, I would say that we are like a power team, but that's just me being biased. But we can really bring something new to the table.
All right. So being out there, so how much work experience you had before coming to NESC?
So I kind of stayed in the academia side of things because I didn't take a break from school. I went from high school, I went to my BSc in Petroleum Geoscience at the University of the West Indies, and straight out of my BSc, I did my MPhil to PhD in Petroleum Engineering. While pursuing my postgrad, I was hired as a teaching assistant, and that's where I was work with the lecturers and professors to administer classes and training and labs.
Well, I must say that the group of trainees that you have are very lucky to start with, to have that powerhouse that you all had down there at St. Madeleine, right? So what are some of the challenges you would have acquired in the field? I know you would have been mainly on the academia side, but what are some of the challenges you would have encountered?
Oftentimes people think that despite not being out in the field and working with the rigs on hands-on, you may think that in academia you don't experience some type of struggle, but I'm sure that even in academia with research, you do encounter some kind of challenges. But to be honest, personally, I look at challenges as a way of growth. I always say everything with grace, I would say, and I look at every challenge to be a way that I could improve myself, and it's something new for me to learn about myself. And that way I would be able to use that new ability now to probably improve how I teach, my teaching style, and how I interact with my students as well. So even though there are multiple things I could say were challenges to me, now when I look back at it, the grace that I earned from that and the lessons that I earned, now it's not really, it wasn't a challenge, it was more of a lesson learned.
We had a manager from Touchstone, Mr. Munan. Yeah. He mentioned, and he said the exact same thing. Well, as he is a discussion at the moment, he mentioned that there's still a demand for drilling. Would you agree or disagree, and why?
I would actually agree with Mr. Munan. So I am familiar with Mr. Munan because he actually taught me in and I was an active member I was the public relations officer in my undergrad for the AAPG, which is the organization that Mr. Moonan is quite active in. And
Oh.
also when I had to pursue my postgrad, I became a STEM teacher with them. So I would go to multiple secondary schools and even primary schools with AAPG. And then I became the education director with them as well. So I have a good interaction with Mr. Moonan.
Yeah.
And he is really, his knowledge and field is so vast.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, he's a highly praised also in our in the geology field and geophysics field. So I would agree with what he said, and it's actually quite interesting because only recently we had bid rounds open for onshore and our deep water field, and that alone could tell you that we have potential. We have the hydrocarbons just for us to get it out of the ground and out into the market, obviously process it out into the market.
And honestly, the average Joe, as you would call it, would not be aware or agree with that. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation to put that knowledge out there, that there's still a demand for drilling.
Yes,
right?
of course, and the energy is constantly changing as well. So not all the time, people may think, oh, we need a job, like, the industry is there, you just need to make sure you have the correct education and skills, which of course we could provide to go into the industry.
Yeah, and he would have mentioned as well that most people have the idea or the perception, well, I'm going to work in the oil and gas and I'm going to make money. But he would have mentioned, don't let that be the only factor in coming into industry. Let it be something that you're passionate in. And I guess, you could agree with that as well.
Yes, definitely. For me, that's the main reason why I actually decided. Of course, I was one of those, as a young child, I want to get into the industry. There's a lot of money. I get to go and work offshore, things like that. Because it was a fascination for me. But then, as I progressed in my education and getting the exposure to actual professionals, that's how I kind of changed my mind. I was like, I want to see in academia. This is where I'm comfortable. And when I say comfortable, I mean, this is what I'm most passionate about. So now, most days, when I come to work, it's when I'm coming to work. It's when I'm coming, for my hobby. This is, I would say hobby because I enjoy it and I enjoy interacting with the students. I enjoy lesson planning. I enjoy interacting with my co-workers as well and learning off them because that's something I realized with us being so knowledgeable and being experts in our own fields. We learn so much from each other, and sometimes just talking from each other, we bounce off so much ideas to improve our courses when teaching.
Well, one thing I'll take from a page from your book is enjoy doing lesson plans because I do enjoy it at all. Okay, so since you would have started, right? How much or what changes you would have seen or witnessed taking place in your industry?
So our industry, it has been an industry existing for a very long time.
Yeah.
One of the first industries that has been existing. And what's so nice about it is that we have constantly changed. With technology, we have grown, and with times, we have changed. If you notice of recent, industry has been moving towards the carbon capture and utilization aspect of things, even renewable energy side of things. So that in itself tells you that the industry isn't remaining the same because I could say for a fact, when I started my PhD, CCUS wasn't as popular as it is now. And that's something that, us being in the field, we need to always keep abreast of what are the changes, what are the new technologies. Even things like software, the software that we use are constantly changing. They are constantly having revisions, and we constantly have to be trained on how to use the new versions of it. And these new versions, they assist us in better seeing the subsurface and imaging things. And it now will help us to get the reserves out of the subsurface in a much easier and cost-effective manner.
So you mentioned technology. Let's talk about AI a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you say it have any existing software or technology that AI have that make the drilling process more seamlessly?
Yes, I would say AI has been a part of it. So in the energy conferences that the energy chamber would have had, even in Guyana, you would see that a lot of the bigger operators like Shell and BP and stuff, they are moving towards AI. Even with you could go and you could use glasses and you could basically visually see the entire reservoir around you. It's like amazing. And even south at our with when we're doing seismic, you have the remote operating vessels where you could say that's sort of AI whereby that vessel is basically on the subsurface is planting nodes for us to image the subsurface on our reserves so we can better extract.
So it's there, but it's not like a threat to you. How to put it? The conventional manpower as we know it. So you still need skilled people on the rig.
Yeah, you still need skilled people on the rig because even on our recent visit with our students Expo, we saw that the tongs were now mechanically operated. You didn't really need persons anymore, which is where our students' skills would have come in. But what they were explaining to them, we still need you all to operate these things. You still need to know the function of it, like the physics behind the science behind it. So you may think that okay, we're moving towards technology advancement, and we're going to be taking away jobs, but that's not the case.
Okay,
is that we just need to mesh with technology, and I think us as humans on the whole, change is always hard to accept, but it's something that is necessary for growth and development.
And you can't run away from it. It's inevitable.
Exactly.
So, what are some personal skills one may have or deem to acquire in coming into the trade? Not just NESC, but just the oil and gas industry on the whole. What are some of the traits someone should have? The ideal person, let's say.
The ideal person, I think, for me, would be communication. Because oftentimes we tend to overlook the huge impact that communication has. But I will tell you for a fact, in my undergrad, we would often be, through GSTT, which is the Geological Society of Trinidad and Tobago, we would attend various tactical talks and conferences. And one thing our lecturers always encourage us to do is to communicate with persons in the industry. Have a conversation, put your fears aside and make yourself vulnerable, because only then persons would remember you. And when you go to the job market, like, oh yes, I remember having a conversation with you, how are you? And it's always good to have a familiar face when you go for interviews, obviously for the nerves. But besides from communication, I would say being open-minded, in that the industry is always changing and you need to adapt to that change. Okay. You can't fight the change. So be adaptable to any change that comes your way. Be ready to and always open-minded to learn new skills as well, because you don't want that you narrow yourself, centralize yourself to only one particular field and one particular department, and then say by chance we have a downturn in the industry and
you can't
they have to dissolve and you can't adapt and you can't move over to another department. That is a bit challenging.
It would be.
So that would say open-minded communication and making yourself adaptable, and always be ready to. And I think this is something that I notice with my students. They are not ready to get themselves uncomfortable. And I think that's something that we all need to do. Be ready to get yourself uncomfortable, because only when you're uncomfortable, that's when you actually discover new things about yourself and capabilities.
I guess it's safe to say they need to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Basically, yeah.
All right. What advice would you have for any female out there that may be thinking about joining or coming into the oil and gas industry, even self into the Julian Academy at St. Madeleine?
My advice would be not to be scared. Take that first step. The first step, I think, is the scariest and the hardest to take, but take that step and be confident in yourself and your capabilities, and you'll be fine. Work hard at what you want. Set goals for yourself, personal goals for yourself, and a timeline in which you want to achieve that, and you'll be fine. And I think we are seeing a lot of women now. We have a big movement in the industry with women empowerment and women industry, and I can tell you for a fact that some of our students who graduated from our program are now employed with international companies working in Guyana and operating these huge mechanical tools. So that in itself tell you, I would say that women are taking over, but it's not be taking over, is that we are now being given equal rights, I would say, in the industry to work alongside men. So, it's not us coming to take men's jobs, but us working together.
Yeah.
So it's to be able to mesh and to, achieve our goals. Okay. So that's all I would have to give my advice to young women.
Thank you so much. Well, Dr. Harrypersad, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Hope to see you next time.